So the key thing I want you to understand is that over the past, let's say 5 years or so, I've had a YouTube channel where I've been teaching about design. So that's my core background, which is website design and app design. And what I've been doing is trying to educate designers, specifically those who are young in design, how to get into the industry. So the way I got into the industry is that I graduated in 2011 with a degree in architecture. And I worked with one of the most prominent Black architects. But for me to be able to get the money, I had to go on YouTube, learn web design, and I would do web design jobs for my mum's friends. I'd make the money, and then that would be my money that I would use to basically take myself to these architects where I could do some kind of on-the-job learning. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it was in the hustle of me learning web design for myself that I realized, hold up, I'm making more money doing web design than I am doing architecture. And at the time, I remember calculating it. I sent over 404 CVs because I calculated it for our first presentation. I went back through my emails, calculated it, 404 CVs. I got 4 responses, and the one response I got back, that was the job with this architect, if that makes sense. So I realized, like, I'm doing all this effort at the time. So I said, let me just go and teach myself. A couple years later, my friend said to me, why don't you share what you know on YouTube? And that's when I started this YouTube channel. And then what I did some years after that is I started to survey my audience to say, what videos do they want? And within about a year or so, 6 months to a year, I got about 128 responses. And in the following year, I created a short free course to that audience. And that started to gain over 526 students within about 2 months' time. So the key thing I want you to understand is that there's a power in actually creating something that people want. But the way you do that is you have to ask them. But the way it works is that you're giving so much upfront value that for someone to fill in a form for you feels like, man, of course I'll do that because you gave me all of this upfront value without even asking for anything. Are you with me? So one of the best things to do in business is what we call the law of reciprocity. It basically means if I can give you so much value for as long as I possibly can without asking for any money, that by nature will make you feel like, you know what, I will give you something back in return. Does that make sense? Yeah? And that's why when you actually provide upfront value, it's so much valuable for you, and it's also valuable for the person that you're giving value to, right? For example, one of the key things that me and Fabian said this time in this business, our first business failed together, but it's a part of the entrepreneurship journey. Does that make sense? Yeah? But this time we realized, you know what? One of the key things that we did successfully in our first business is that we always would do free events because it's in our heart to always actually do training and give back. I think we did over 200 people came through our first batch of events. We did it in London, central London. And what we found, Jermaine's been there, Corinne's been there over the years, is that those events showed us what people need. When you go on, what we also saw, what I also thought, if you see the next one, Fabe, is that when we now have this business together, we have an agency called Flow Converts together. It's a digital marketing SEO agency. This time when we're doing it, we basically created what we call our customer persona. Our customer persona is super essential for everybody to do. The way a customer persona works is that you basically create demographics and psychographics. Demographics simply means age, title, job title. Are they married or unmarried? Where do they go? Are you with me? Like, you're basically looking at demographics about them. Then you have something called psychographics. This is behavioral attributes. What do they read? What do they listen to? What do they watch? What are they interested in? The deeper you understand your customer, it gives you a good starting point. But the beautiful thing about the day and age we live in now is that we have artificial intelligence with AI, ChatGPT. So if you don't know, you have a rough understanding, or you could be further along in your entrepreneurship journey where you have a deep understanding. You could pipe it into ChatGPT with a good prompt, and then you can tell it, give me the pains, frustrations, goals, and desires of my ideal customer. And you can use this with a survey to really get some intense data about your ideal customer. Does that make sense? Now, when you do that, what you can start to do is you can start to build a new offer based upon the frustrations, the deep frustrations of your ideal customer. I realized over the past 12 years, in my experience, I've been developing websites and apps for fintech companies, specifically B2B fintech companies. So the core of my experience is marketing with B2B fintech, web design, app design with B2B fintech. So basically what happens is if I now come and I say, hey, Fabian, we need to start working with B2B fintech companies, right? Although Fabian may say, you know what, I may not have 2,000 people I know, because of his ability to network, I think the speed with which we created this, to him, what was the speed with which this was created, Nicole? And then we signed up Xbase. They say within about 6 weeks, less than that. Fabian when it comes onto networking and business development, just talk to this man. So basically, we create this customer avatar, we create the offer specifically designed for them. Now, let me give you a breakdown of what we mean by this. The offer, remember Fabian spoke to you about the irresistible offer? Now we know our customer, and I've got so much background knowledge of what they actually care about. The hardest thing for this customer right now is generating leads, because the cost of a lead right now is roughly $115 per signed up, per qualified lead. They call it MQL, marketing qualified lead. It's about roughly $115, very expensive. But for you to generate that lead at $115, you're roughly spending about $500 per lead to get that person in the door. Does that make sense? So every time you spend $500 to make that $115, now they're qualified. Does that make sense? That qualified lead doesn't mean they're going to sign up. It just means they're qualified based on your client avatar. Does that make sense? Yeah, you're spending $500. You might get 2 or 3 people. You might spend $100 dollars. You don't get nothing. The company I'm working with at the moment, they spend, last time we calculated, 934 plus thousand this month, just to generate roughly about 800 and something leads, not even qualified. Like no one's, like of this 800 something, we're not even sure yet, because the sales team still have to go through it, how many are actually going to become quite. So you with me? So what we're finding out in this world, in this space, for this client to get qualified leads is extremely expensive. So what we have to do, we have to create an offer, which is basically a system to help them generate leads where they can keep the cost per lead down and make sure that when they actually jump on the phone with them, that they are qualified as well. All right. So that's what our offer basically focuses on. Now, the key thing you got to understand is this. Everybody wants to generate leads, but for you to do that, there's some key things you have to understand about the person that you really want to work with. Just because you know something doesn't mean everyone is your ideal customer. In other words, is this my ideal customer? Do I even want to work with them? Can they afford my services? Are they willing to pay for my services? It will make sense. When you ask these questions, then you're going, can I prove them value? How long before they receive value from my offer? We call this the time of purchase versus time they receive the value. Does that make sense? In this B2B service world, that time can range. When you're talking about a physical product, it's easier. For example, if I buy a glass, the time for me to receive value from the glass is the time I pour something into it and drink from it. Are we making sense? But when you're talking about a service like yourself, a tailor, the time for someone to receive the value from what you actually do might take 2 weeks, maybe even 4 weeks. Are you with me? Now, the best way you can actually increase your value is to shorten that as much as you possibly can. Now, let's say you can't shorten it. How else could you increase value? Well, the customer experience during that 2 weeks can be amplified. That could be through videos. That could be through events. That could be through personal one-on-ones. Go on, brother.
Found personalities also.
Do you hear that, everyone? Yeah? Over deliver. Another way that you can increase the actual value of what you provide is what we call the effort to sacrifice. In other words, how much effort does the customer have to put in for them to receive value from you? So in other words, someone comes to you as a tailor. They have to come to you, get their measurements. They have to physically come to you though. In other words, imagine if you could have some kind of virtual reality where they basically go and stand in front of their mirror. They put their app to the screen. It just records them and then they send. Are you with me? That could be something in the future that could change the game. In other words, the effort starts to go down and then the value starts to increase. These are the things you can start to do. Another thing you got to ask is, are they the right type of person I want to work with? Fabian, haven't we, Nicole? This is the wrong, this is a mistake we've made, isn't it? Are they the right type of person I want to work with? I think we've chosen to work with some howlers. Do you see what I'm saying? And when I say howlers, not they're howlers, that we didn't pre-qualify. We make sense. It's not even the customer's problem. It's our problem. We didn't decide whether you are right for us. If we think we have super value on our end, not everybody is right for you. I remember learning this in my training. They say you hire slow, you fire fast. Don't be scared to just fire someone if they're not working out, but you hire slow, you fire fast. We kind of take a different approach in our company, and the ladies that we work with tell us off many times. All right, we go next, yeah? So one of the key things you got to understand is that whole surveying is very important. So for example, one of the key things that we've done, the people that we actually bring to our events, we ask them questions about like, what do you actually want to learn? And that's how not only does it help us get the titles to our events, but it helps us make sure, you know what, this is a series of events that we're going to do based upon the questions people actually have. Are we making sense? Yeah? When you go next, Fabe. So what's the key things that you can do? Norman Nielsen, who's a big researcher, basically says that you only need about 5 people to find out the real depths of your ideal customer problems. Now, one of the ways you can get leads is 2 websites you can use. One website's called igleads.io, igleads.io. You can scrape leads off LinkedIn. You can get leads from many different places, and it can get good leads from Instagram as well for you. That will give you name, phone number, and sometimes job title. If you use a tool called Apollo.io, that tool will allow you to get leads on LinkedIn, qualified. When I say qualified, it is in they're your ideal customer, but you'll still need to use a different tool, which I can tell you afterwards, to basically make sure that it's called Hunter.io, and that tool will allow you to make sure the emails are working. And this is now where you develop, this is one of multiple ways that we use, but this is one way that you can make sure you have your Dream 100 list. When you have your Dream 100, this now becomes the people that you start to reach out to start to survey them, to make sure that you've got the ideal pain points, to be able to know what marketing material you'll create and how you're going to create your copy on your websites, on your ads, on your landing pages, to be able to speak to your ideal customer. Am I making sense so far? Yeah? Because the goal is to speak in the language of your ideal customer, because the way that you do that is by speaking to their pain and taking away their pain with your offer. All right? If you go next, Fabe. One of the key things that's helped me, because I'm a designer by trade and I also have worked many years with marketers, I know the communities. If I'm selling to designers, for example, there's like private Slack groups, there's private Facebook groups where my ideal customer hangs out. So as a result, I can jump into many different Facebook groups, etc., throw up questions inside the Facebook group, get some comments, some feedback, and those start to inform the type of events that me and Fabian can do, because we speak to business owners. If I go into business groups, I can also, when I used to do more stuff for designers, I used to be able to go into this community. It's got over 9,000 members. And inside of here, critiques, comments. Before I used to have designs for clients, I would throw my designs into here before I would show it to my client, get some feedback. By the time I'm going to my client, I've already passed it through about 3 or 4 more experienced, or if not the same experienced designers. Am I making sense? So this is what you can do. You can start to leverage private communities as a great way to actually get not only your service to be at a higher standard, but also as a great way to understand the pain points of your ideal customer as well. All right. Next one. One of the key things that I've seen that can happen as well is that on LinkedIn, depending upon who you follow in the industry you're in, like we specialize in the B2B space because we work with a lot of B2B business owners, and we service business B2B, specifically B2B SaaS. You can actually be in part of conversations online, be the best person in the comments. Now, the best person in the comments, before you know it, people are actually go into your profile. And if you optimize your LinkedIn profile really well, a great example of that, if you go to Fabian's LinkedIn profile, you'll see what I've done with his profile. So there's a section in your LinkedIn profile that says pronoun. You can actually change that, because there's only 2 genders, but you can actually change that and say, okay, I'm a entrepreneur, or I'm a marketing expert. Am I making sense? So so basically what it will do, it will say Fabian for entrepreneur, for example, right? So instead of it saying he or her or he or his, You can change that. And LinkedIn said, you know what, we're not going to have a drop down list. People can just write whatever they want. So now what you can do now, you can optimize your profile and put that in there. Now, why is that important? In the search field in LinkedIn, that now is one of the things that's used because it uses what we call a query. That's one of the things it uses to be able to surface you when people search for people in your industry. So these are the things you start to do. You can also optimize your banner, say what you do. So a great example is to check out his LinkedIn. You'll see what I mean. Go to the next one, please, Fabian. One of the other websites, by the way, this presentation will be very tactical, is this website called answerthepublic.com, answerthepublic.com. The way answerthepublic.com works is you basically type in your ideal keyword. So in this example, I've typed in marketing business. And what answerthepublic.com does is it basically starts to give you all of the kind of questions, like what questions, why start marketing business? Why is business marketing good? Why marketing strategy is good in business? And what it's starting to do is starting to help you understand what are the questions that people are asking. Another great way you can actually, what's your business again, Manifa? Wellness, right? So you can go on Google, type in wellness, and on Google's first page, they have a section called People Also Asked. Have you ever seen that before?
Yeah.
You noticed it before, yeah? So that is a great way for you to understand the questions in your industry. That also is a fantastic tool for you to be able to create Instagram content, blog content, YouTube videos. You basically center all your content around People Also Asked. And that will give you really great ideas to be able to speak to your ideal customer. Remember, the goal is you're not creating content on rented platforms for your leads, potential leads, to just sit there. Your goal is to get them on an email list so that you now can control the conversation with your ideal customer. You make sense, yeah? So this is something that so many people that me and Fabian have seen, we miss out on. You shared the story, Jermaine. You got over how many? 40,000 plus on TikTok? 60,000 plus. 60,000 plus on TikTok. How many people do you have on an email list? Do you see what I'm saying? Right? And I made the same mistake. So don't get twisted. Right? So me and Jermaine understand this. I don't have 60,000. I have 16,000 on my YouTube channel. I'm just fortunate that early on, I created a lead magnet really early. So I've got over 3,000 plus on email. Does that make sense? Right? So the key thing I want you to understand is that the way you do this is you make sure you leverage the platform to get the email. To get the phone number is ideal. The phone number is the holy grail, because when an email can get you 5 to 10% open rate, a phone number on average is getting you 80 to 90% open rate, which is ideal. The only thing is you can't sometimes communicate as much information like an email, but the ideal is a phone number. And the best thing to do is to bring people to an event. What me and Fabian like to do is exemplify that in our actions. So it doesn't, we don't really care the amount of people in the room. We just want the right people in the room. Are we making sense? Not only that, Fabian part owns this restaurant with his business partner who is here today. So when we're talking about business, you've got someone who actually owns a business that you're currently in right now. Are we making sense? So these are the things that we like to do, is not speak from theory, is exemplify that in what we're saying and show you in clear tactics and strategies that you can utilize today that will have a direct impact into your bottom line, into your pocket, and help you keep the lights on, all right? Now, the key thing to understand, if you go next, Fabe, is that when you leverage power words, this is an underutilized tool that so many people don't do in business. In business, especially as an entrepreneur, there's multiple hats you have to wear. One of the hats you have to learn to use as a business owner is the power of words. So there was an experiment done, and it's called the rice experiment. And what they do is they basically put different pots of rice in 3 jars. And the experimenters, they basically spoke nothing but powerful love words, nice words to this jar. Then they had a neutral jar that they spoke nothing to. They just left the jar. And then they had a jar that's called the hate jar. They said like negative words, like you're going to be nothing but bad. And they literally, just by the words they use, they spoke to the jar of rice. Now, what do you think happened to the jar that got bad words spoken to it? See, it got mold started to develop to that jar. The jar where the rice was spoken good words, they said over time it started to ferment and started to develop wine. And the jar where nothing was dumped into it, it started to also develop mold as well. It's quite interesting, right? Even when you do nothing, even when you say nothing, it actually started to develop mold. This is such a deep point. This can even translate into your personal life. The type of words you say to yourself, the type of words, if you're a parent, you say to your children, when you think back on the type of words that your parents spoke to you. And this is why it's important. One of my favorite authors, her name is Dr. Caroline Leaf. I would advise anyone to read her books. She basically says, frame your world with your words. So what's the world that you want to create with your customers? What's the type of language that your customers speak? What's the type of words that they use? You see, when you come around us, one of the key things that we believe and what we want to say is that we will be successful in business. Elijah, man. You understand? My business will thrive. Do you understand? Right? Your business will and has and will always thrive. So when we speak like this, it doesn't matter because I'm not comparing myself to you. You're not comparing yourself to me. The Bible has this beautiful quote where the Bible says, to compare yourself amongst yourself is not wise. Your actual only competition is you. The best you can be. So when you speak powerful words and you speak words to your ideal community that they will resonate with, it by nature, it's shown through science, will have a positive effect on you and fundamentally on your bottom line. Are we making sense?
Yeah.
So the key thing I want you to understand, if you go next, Fabe, is that the power of words, copywriting is super important skill you have to learn when it comes onto business. So when we talk about using power words, I want to show you how we exemplify this specifically in the people that is in this room today. For example, do you not have enough money to cover your expenses? Are you feeling like, it's so good, but why I'm so good, but why can't I get enough clients? Or am I spending too much time figuring out things as they go? And have I been listening to too much people? Also, am I relying on referrals and I don't have control on how I get leads? Am I having late client referrals or cancellations? Or I can't take vacations and enjoy breaks? Or do I feel like there's no peace in my life and there's no family time? Or am I working part-time on my business and I don't know if I'll be able to go full-time to run my business? Does this sound like anyone in this room? All right. So the key thing I want you to understand, the power of words is super essential, right? And because we know our audience that we put our events on for, we know that at least 3 or 4 of these points will resonate with the people we invite to our free events. Are we making sense? So if you go next, Fabe, if we start to fix these problems, do you want a client magnet system that generates you leads while you sleep? That you want your ideal clients to find you and that you can enjoy time off with friends and family. You can stop worrying about paying the bills or wondering if they can even make payroll. Do you want to start to feel successful, like you've actually accomplished your goals? And do you want to make more money by providing a deeper value for your customers? And I put here, buy your wife the things she always wants to buy. Doesn't that sound, obviously I'm not saying everyone's got a wife in this room, but the point I'm making, right, is do you see the difference in regards to speaking to the goals of our ideal clients? Are you with me? In other words, we're moving away from the pains, which is what you saw in the previous slide, and we're moving forward towards the goals. If you want to know more about this young man here, Jermaine Wong, he's the one that taught me all of this. It's all about storytelling. Are you with me? All right? The key thing I want you to understand, guys, the more you understand your customer, the more you can start to speak in the language of your ideal customer, okay? It's very important for you to go very deep early on into surveying them. Like Nicole, when we're selling hair now, how can we make this work? Are you the type of woman that wants to feel like $1 million when you walk in a room? Do you want to make sure that you're not spending more on your hair, but what you do spend makes you feel and look amazing? I don't know. I just made it up on the spot. You see what I'm saying? I don't sell to women. Well, maybe I do, but not with hair. You see what I'm saying? But the point I'm making is that language, that language is the art of selling. And we're not coercing, we are persuading. Are you with me? Persuading, the difference with coercion versus persuading, the reason why sales sometimes feels icky to some people, because in sales, people get coerced because I didn't want to buy it. Persuading is I actually want the thing, but I just need persuasion to really take what I know and really take advantage of the value that you're providing. Are we making sense? And that's why it's important. A great book is a book by, his surname is Caldini, but the book is literally called Persuasion. Persuasion. Let me know. I'll come to me afterwards. I'll send it to you. So if you go to, I think we're almost at the end now.
Okay.
Time. Okay. All right. I'll blitz through the last bits. One of the key things you can do is leverage Twitter. Come to me afterwards and I'll break this down. But Twitter is what we call a social listening tool. If people use Twitter just to tweet, you're not using it properly. Use it for what we call social listening. Follow the competitors in your landscape. Follow the people who are speaking to your ideal customers. And what's the language? How are they speaking about what you serve? All right. Next thing we can do is we can also put else next baby. Can it go next? Yeah. Another thing is you actually do personal chats with your ideal customer. You jump on a Zoom call, you have your questions, and you ask them step by step, what are the problems that you have? How long have you been having those problems? If you could change those problems, what would you like to see, etc. And you keep asking them questions. A way that we exemplify that, like I said, is by doing events. Events we find is the fastest way to be able to do this at mass, but the other way is by doing it one-on-one. It takes a bit longer, but it's super valuable as well. You go next, Fabe. And then this is kind of a bit more long. This depends on the business you have. So for example, if you're selling hair, this wouldn't really work. TikTok, to be honest, is a better social listening tool for what we're talking about. But especially in the B2B space, if there's anyone in there that was B2B, Google Alerts is a powerful tool because it sends you emails based upon the keyword that you're targeting and it gives you all of the recent articles about that specific keyword. Are you with me? So this is really good as well. And the last one, Fabe, as I slow down, is what we call niche clarity. So niche clarity is like when you're unclear about who you serve and you really want to go deeper into it. If you go to the next one, Fabe. This is where you go deeper into the key points that you're going to work on. So today, we only covered how to understand your customer. But one of the key things that me and Fabian do is that we basically go deeper into all the other things like your signature offer, how to launch your signature offer, how to serve your first client, how to get testimonials that can get you more clients, how to leverage your organic audience, having a clear content calendar, etc. All of this is what we do in our business mentoring program. And if you'd love to know more, come and speak to us as well. I know we have to finish as well. So, Fabe, I'd love you to close out for me. But I hope that really makes sense to you all. If you found value, just say, yeah. All right, brilliant. Thank you so much. Hey.